All. I'm going to go ahead and hit the record button. Happy Wednesday. Unit 4, lesson 3. And thank you all for being here on time. Before we get started, Samaje is our assistant instructor today. How are you, Samaje?
I'm doing good, and you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, Samaje, let's get to know you a little bit more. Where are you from?
I'm from Fort Greene, Brooklyn, New York.
Very cool. And why did you join Europe, Samaje?
I joined Europe because I wanted to gain a new hobby. I was kind of tired hanging out with kids. Sorry, but I've been working like in the education field for a while, and I feel like I need to learn something new since we're in COVID.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And what is something interesting or a fun fact about you?
I have three fun facts. I'm an artist. I love to paint. I love to draw. I'm working on digital art. I'm a very social person, even though I don't act like it on virtual settings. I'm very talkative and I'm very fun.
What was the last one? Sorry, you cut out for a second.
Oh, I'm very fun to be around.
Very fun to be around. Cool. Your fun fact is that you're fun.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And what is the question that you want to pose to our group for this morning?
Okay. What is the most ridiculous thing your parents or guardians ever did to embarrass you? Um, so many. My mom and I do jokes on one another. One time, me and my friends we canceled our senior trip in eighth grade, and my friend was singing terribly bad. He thinks he's Beyonce. He calls himself Beyonce. And my mom's like, if you don't stop dancing, if you don't stop singing, I'm going to strip on the train. And she did. She started doing pole dances on the train, on a crowded train.
Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing when your mom starts pole dancing on the train.
Listen, I have stories for days. She wore a cape with rainbow socks on and bright orange pants. If we started like embarrassing her, so she came outside like that as we embarrassed her outside.
So if you embarrass her, she would like show up with her cape and her rainbow socks and be like, "Come on in, it's time for dinner, kids." Wow, we gotta have your mom join us one day for class. She sounds pretty amazing.
Oh, she would love that actually.
Yeah, maybe she'll be a guest speaker.
Oh boy.
So let's look in the chat box. My mom showed pictures of me when I was little. So yeah, that's always embarrassing to see. Mandy says, same here, Samaj. We have stories for days. I guess you guys both share crazy moms or fun moms. What a fun mom. And the cat, I don't know who the cat is, Ashley Ross. My mom is always showing young pictures of me. My dad left me in my underwear in a different neighborhood when I was 10. Wow, that's quite the story, Andre, I'm sure. I tripped one day in middle school. Did you get tripped by one of your parents or your guardians? That must have been pretty embarrassing. Yeah.
It's
Cat.
okay, Jesus. My mom did that to me too in school.
Yeah. My dad comes and pinches my cheeks sometimes when I'm on a Zoom. I don't know if you've seen him. I have not seen your dad pinch your cheeks, but that's really cute and endearing. So he likes to pinch your cheeks while you're on a Zoom call. Yeah, that's kind of what parents, that's what they do. They embarrass us. That's across the board. Isn't that like a joke? Like our parents' job is to make sure that we have something to tell our therapist or something like that. So awesome. Well, thank you, Samaj, for being our assistant instructor today. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your stories of your times your parents or your guardians embarrassed you. I was in Mexico. My mom did not tell me I had boxers on, so I went outside with boxers, thinking they were shorts. Wow, that's really embarrassing. That's one way to teach your kid, I guess. Tough life lessons for sure. So awesome. So thank you all for sharing. I love it. All right, I'm gonna give you guys a breakout scenario just to do solo, kind of get the brain going first thing in the morning. Go ahead and read the scenario, and I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to think through what you're gonna say. When you have your answer, raise your hand, and myself or Samaji will call on you. Take about 30 more seconds. If you think you know what you're going to say, raise your digital hand and let's hear it. And if no one raises their hand, then I have to do my least favorite thing in the world, which is cold call people. And I hate cold calling people. I'm going to delegate it to my assistant instructor. The VP of IT can't have her cake and eat it too. Good point. All right, Samaje, who do you want to call on to tell us how they would address this situation?
Oh, I hate to be the bad guy. I'm gonna ask Jesus.
Okay, good morning, all. I'll go about this simply, right? There's a lack of mass communication. The individual who has that task is not here. So I would say that I could take on that role. I would say also that, what's the other role? So there's a newer version of Zoom.
Yep,
I'm breaking now, I think, guys.
you're good. We can still hear you.
Okay, so for the newer version of Zoom, I would say that maybe I didn't really think this one through, to be honest. This is like $2.99, so that's way more money out of my budget. So I'm not sure if even the VP would be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, I would try to maybe look for a older version with higher security. And for the other task, for the time management, maybe telling my team that we should try to push the project out quicker and all work higher hours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my plan.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesus. So Samaji, I see 4 hands up. Do you know which one was first?
Thank you.
Muhammad B. Sorry.
Good morning. Like pretty much what JC said. I will try to explain to her that we have an issue with we basically missing one person, which is actually the most important group project. Without the person, we might need to hire someone or bring someone to take over that place. And also explain that like we're running out of budget. We might need to extend extending time due to the fact that due to the fact that we're not I guess that's it. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mohammed. So Jesus and Mohammed talked about asking for an extension, talked about just being like transparent with the VP, like this is what's going on, this is the situation. David, do you have anything different that you would approach it with, or another angle you would take?
Yes. So the person that contracted COVID-19, since this is during a pandemic, why can't we have the person that contracted COVID-19 work from home? That way you don't have to hire anybody else.
Because they have symptoms and they're very sick.
Oh. Yeah, that was like the only like input I could come up with.
Yeah. Thank you. I see a few more hands going up. Do you, Samaji, who was the next person?
It was Andre, then it was Ashley Ross, and then Muhammad and Imani.
Okay, let's just do Andre and Ashley just for the sake of time. So Andre, what would you do?
I think the first thing I would do is contact the VP, just state out the issues that we have with the problem. Like, look, we're gonna be if we continue with this plan, we're gonna be over budget. Um, one of our members is missing, and then I remember in one of our previous classes, uh, John talked about stating a problem but with solution. So what I'd say is probably suggest some ideas, which would probably be with certain companies, you know, they have services. If you buy for the large amount, there's certain discounts that you get. So that'd be uh, a suggestion for the budgeting issue for Zoom. As for the missing teammate, I would probably tell them that we would have to delegate his or her tasks among the rest of us just to try to keep up with the deadline.
Excellent, Andre. So you chose the option of you're going to coordinate with Zoom and say, hey, because we're buying so many licenses, will you give us a discount on the updated version? And then instead of asking for an extension, you're going to just divvy up the work that was missing from the team member to try to still make your deadline. Is that, did I understand you right?
Yes.
Great. And Ashley, anything you would add to what was been said already, or did they about cover it?
No, I want to add something.
Sure.
I would say that I would not ask for an extension because she already wants to cut down the time by 4 weeks. So I wouldn't ask for an extension. And also, since 4 weeks is being taken off and the budget is already approved, then in my mind, we have more money to be able to afford that extra $299 per month. So I don't see why it would be an issue to get that upgraded since the time is being cut down on.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for everybody who contributed. We appreciate that. Everyone's comments in the chat box as well. So let's go ahead and get started on today's lecture portion of the presentation. Samaje, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is the last step in the project management life cycle, the PM life cycle for short. Closing. So first of all, with your hand raised, and Samaje can call on you, what do you think the closing step is? Maybe some of you have already researched this. You're already aware of what it is. Maybe some of you don't know, but anybody have a guess or an idea, or they studied this already? What does the closing process and project management look like? Anybody want to raise their hand and take a guess?
Andre raised his hand.
Yep, Andre.
I would probably say something like either the results or like feedback from sponsors or stakeholders.
Yep, great. That's part of it. Thanks, Andre. Anyone else have their hand up?
There's David.
I would say the moral of the project. So why you created it, for others to absorb the knowledge of it.
Okay, so like a moral of the project.
Yeah. So like, what's the main idea of this project? Why did we do this? How can others learn from it?
Right. That was good. That definitely the last line as well, is you want to kind of document what were the big learnings of this project, because the fact is projects, they change in size, scope, and scale, but the principles of them remain consistent. So there's great wisdom in learning from your own mistakes. There's even better wisdom in learning from the mistakes of others. So having a documentation where it's like, these are all the things we learned. This is what went well, what went wrong. So when the next project comes around, they have that to look at, whether it's yourself or somebody else. Who is next, Samaje?
There's Hannah, then Ashley Ross.
Great.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Samaje. So I said like maybe everyone needs to recognize that the project is done. Like, so as a project leader, you might say that the project is done, but for the stakeholders, so they might find other things to do. So it's kind of like you want to check in with everyone, let them know that it's done. Well, let them know that it's complete, and everyone can agree that it's complete after the execution, I think.
Yes, excellent, Hannah. You know, somebody made a comment in the IO class how this reminds them a lot of the beginning of a project, right? How you have like the kickoff meeting and the project charter and everyone's on the same page. So it's like the same thing, but on the other end of the project. Because yeah, you as a project leader, Hannah, that's a really good point. You might say, okay, we're done. But what if the project team has, 10 team members and 40 contractors? How are you going to communicate that to everybody who's on the team? So this is the great way to do that. All right, it looks like Ashley lowered her hand, so we'll go ahead and keep going. So the project closure helps you avoid some of these common pitfalls. Most of these I think we've already kind of hit on, but obviously the first one is you don't want to repeat mistakes in projects, right? You want to make sure that when mistakes happen, they're documented and that next time around you're not going to repeat them again. You have the final products or deliverables are without dedicated support or resources. We want to avoid that. Failing to identify who will own and maintain the final solutions. So like the worst thing that can happen is there's like an outstanding issue, but nobody knows who's responsible for the outstanding issue. And then of course, liability issues, payments, contracts, deliverables, making sure everybody gets paid, because guess what? Project management is not free, and managing projects is not something people do for a volunteer job. So making sure that everything is tied up, all the loose ends. That's what you want to make sure that you do. You have a final meeting. It's an important part of project management, so much so that it's one of the 5 steps in the life cycle. You can't just say, okay, this project's done, let's move on with our day. You should have a formal gathering. So here's one of the examples. Do you guys have my picture there in the corner? I try to find a spooky picture for the post-mortem, because I also think that's like a very morbid term because post-mortem, I'm sure is like how you would now analyze like how somebody has died. So the project is over. It's now behind us. And these are some of the questions that you can ask in the post-mortem. So in the chat box, A, B, C, D, E, or F, what do you think is the most important question that you should ask as a project manager in the post-mortem? Which question do you think is the most important? Usman, you wrote the letter E. Why is E the most important to you, Usman?
Because that is what we're trying to achieve, client satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If the client is not happy with the results, then sort of a failure of a project, wasn't it? Moses, you put B. Why is B the most important one to you?
B is the most important one to me because that way you can analyze what were your shortcomings, what you had difficulty with, so that way you can work on those things for future projects.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, Moses, how are you feeling?
I am feeling a lot better, actually.
You sound a lot better. I'm glad to hear that. Awesome. So B is one person made a comment, which I thought was interesting, is that B kind of encompasses A and F as well, right? Like if you say, what are the challenges, what were the failures? You also are saying what went well and what can you change or improve for the future. So excellent. Thank you all for chiming in with that. Appreciate that. Those are some of the questions that you ask in the post-mortem. And then of course, you want to celebrate. Projects are a lot of work. They take a lot of time. They take a lot of money. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things that go into putting together a project. So just for fun, raise your hand or write in the chat box, whichever one you prefer. If you would share how would you celebrate the end of a project, and to make it like more nuanced. Just imagine you're leading a team for 1 year, or it's a whole entire year that this project has gone on. You've done your post-mortem, you close the project. Now it's time to celebrate. Ashley Gavin says a company party at a club. All right, Ashley Gavin, unmute yourself and tell us what your party is going to look like.
I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie. I can't remember it. Shoot, it's with Lindsay Lohan and Chris Pine. Some lucky movie. Anyways, they go to like this big club party and like they have like a masquerade ball and they have like a fortune teller and all those stuff. So I do something big like that just because you said it was a year-long party. I thought it was like maybe like a 6-week planning out thing. But if it's like a whole year that I'm planning it out, then it'd have to go big or go home. So yeah.
Awesome. Wow. Okay, Ashley, I want to be on your project team because that sounds like a lot of fun. Awesome. We put open bar. What's a launch day party, Hannah?
I think it's like the day of when it like not when the project's done, but when it actually like launches for the clients to use.
Right.
And while the clients are like using it and like getting to know it, it's for the people, the team, the project team to actually lay back and just like take a breather and realize that they finally did it.
Yeah, for sure. And to watch the client enjoy the new product will be very satisfying. Excellent. Andre, you have your hand up?
I would have probably said something like, go to a restaurant, invite the stakeholders probably just to have like a better relationship with them, especially for future projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, Andre. That's definitely a very good catch. Is if you don't do this aspect, and then let's suppose like I'm the project manager, and then we don't have a party or don't have a celebration or don't do anything to just be grateful for all the hard work. What's going to happen next time I have to recruit people for my team? Are they going to be really like excited to work with me? Probably not. They're going to be like, man, we worked really hard for Eric on that project, and then all said and done, and nothing even came of it other than, okay, good job, go team, see you later. And Samaje, I liked your approach. You're going to do a spa weekend. So where's your team going to go for the spa weekend?
I don't know. It should be somewhere like in a deserted place because it's going to be stress free. We don't want to be near our families, like just relaxing, and it could just be fun.
Yes, that sounds very nice after a whole entire year of really hard work on the project, the spa weekend, to all just go and just chill out. That sounds really nice. And I'm glad some people are putting in the chat box, like, I don't need a party, just give me a bonus. And that's fine too. If that's how you want to celebrate, hey, we're not going to do a fancy dinner. We're not going to go away. We're not going to do any of that. But, everybody gets, I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat box is a fair amount of money for your team after a 1 year long project? What do you think is a good bonus? $5,000. Wow. 30 million. Okay, Manny. I don't know what projects you're working on. So $5,000, 500, 2,500, $5, $3 to $5. Okay. $20 for me because I'm cheap. A week's worth of pay. Now keep in mind, everybody, there's been some confusion. Not in this class, but in the other. When you're a project manager, like you're not necessarily like the people's boss, right? And when you're on a project, that's not like your main job. It's like an additional thing that you do with your regular tasks and duties. So bear in mind, like if you're like, hey, I'm going to give someone, 10 grand. Well, that's like, a substantial amount of money. If the whole entire project was 100 grand and you have 5 people on your team, give them 50% of what you made. There you go. Gift cards. I love it. Gift cards to Olive Garden. Thanks for being on my project team. Have a nice day. All right. So just bear that in mind. We want to celebrate the end that we did it. We accomplished it. All right, let's do this. It is 10:55. There you go. Extra time or vacation time off. Let's take a 10-minute break, watch this video, and come back at 11:05. Thanks. It's 11:05. Please make your way back to your seat. Please put your camera on. In the chat box, can you please write down a takeaway from that video? In the chat box, please write a takeaway from that short video on how to close a project. Yes, the project always ends. That's for sure. That is one of the unique things about project management. And listen closely. One of your questions on your midterm is going to be, a project always has a start or end date. True or false? The answer is true. A project always has a start and end date. So you want to archive the documentation? Absolutely. In the event you have to go back and look at what you've done, for whatever reason, it's there. Yes, Chelsea B, very good point. There's still a lot of activity going on. It's not just like the last, T has been crossed and I has been dotted and then we're done. You want to keep track of everything. Absolutely close the contracts, final reports. So it's a really big step. It's a very important step in project management. It's not one that you just say, okay, let's blow this one off and be done with it. it's critical that you make sure that you include closure. All right, I'm going to share with you guys a story of when lack of planning really can be an issue. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. Some of you may be, some of you may not be. But in 1904, here in New York City, a church group, German Lutheran church group from the Lower East Side, chartered a boat, or a ship rather, more of like a ship than a boat, to take them to Long Island for a church potluck. Most of the people who went on the boat were women and children that are members of this congregation. And it was their annual tradition. They would go on this trip from the Lower East Side of Manhattan out to Long Island. They would spend the day in the sun, eating food, playing at the beach. And that was what they did every single year. And this particular year, things did not go so well. There actually was somebody on the ship that was smoking a cigarette, flicked the cigarette, and it went to the lamp room, where this was 1904. So lamps were operated by oil, starting a small fire in that room. The story goes that the 12-year-old boy that was part of the church group saw the fire, ran to the captain of the ship and told him there's a fire on the ship, to which the captain blew him off and said, yeah, whatever, just, kids and their imaginations, right? Well, if you imagine, a whole entire room full of oil and an active fire and a moving vessel creating wind, that fire began to grow. And it was in a matter of minutes that the whole entire ship was up in flames. About 10 minutes went by. What ended up happening was everybody panicked. They tried to take the life jackets off of the vessel. Unfortunately, those life jackets had not been inspected in many, many years. So these mothers would take the life jackets, they would put them on their children, they would toss them into the water, only to watch the life jackets disintegrate in the water and their children go down into the East River near 90th Street. Of course, it was the early 1900s, so most people did not know how to swim. So once the boat capsized, most people drowned immediately. The whole entire crew that they had on the ship had never been trained on how to do a fire drill. So it was complete and total chaos. And unfortunately, the amount of souls that were lost that day was 1,388 people died in the General Slocum disaster. The largest loss of life in one day in the history of New York City until 9/11. So pretty devastating, extremely devastating. Can you imagine if your mother or your sister or your cousin or your dad or somebody went to go have a picnic with his family and found out that they lost their lives? So it's an example of what happens when you don't plan well. Obviously, a lot of things went wrong there. So that's the reality. Sometimes when things go wrong, it's a minor thing. You lose some money. You frustrate somebody, but sometimes the lack of planning can be devastating, like this story is with General Slocum. So, with that being said, tomorrow night you have due a catastrophic assurance essay. So I just want to spend the last half an hour or so of class, preparing for that portion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break you out into groups, and I'm going to share with you guys your groups. And then I want you to remember what group you're in, because then I'm going to share with you what, failed project are you going to discuss. So please remember your group number. Group 1, Andre, Evelyn, David, Eric. Group 2, Amna, Chelsea, Christian, Ricardo. Group 3, Amadul, Ashley Ross, Karina, Hannah Holmes. Group 4, Ashley Gavin, Luis, Mahmoud, and Nicholas. Group 5, Moses, Muhammad, Uzman. Group 6, Jesus, Samaje, Zena. Group 7, Manny, Neftali, Pablo. And Group 8, Ashley, Jalissa, and Rahul. Now, you all know your group numbers. This is what scenario you're going to explore. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes. I want you to look at, what scenario that you're going to look up. And then I want you to talk about why did that product or why did that project fail? And then I just want one person, because for the sake of time, there's 8 groups, one person to share a 1-minute presentation like I just did on why this product or project failed. So why it's important to make sure that you do projects well. Any questions on what your expectations are? All right. I'll see you all in 10 minutes. Neftali, Christian, are you guys there?
I think Andre wanted to speak.
Yes, Andre.
All right. Is Andre here?
Hello? Hello? Can everybody hear me?
Yes. Yep. You're on.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hi, everybody. So I'll be talking about the new Coke, which was actually considered a major Coke failure. So basically in 1985, Coke wanted to try to tweak its recipe, try to get the taste better. The problem with that at the time was despite having blind taste tests, according to them, about 190,000 blind taste tests between US and Canadian regions. They never considered loyal customers' emotions towards the brand itself and how they would take the change. Between that and trying to use the same taste testers that were also considered to like more of Pepsi brands or other rivals to them, that caused their new Coke, when it was released, to fall flat on the release day. And about 77 to 79 days later, they had to pull back the product and release the Coke Original again.
Thank you so much. So Coke tried to reinvent their product and was not very well received by consumers. And then 2.5 months later, they just went back to the original Coke. So that's why if you ever see a can of Coke, it says Coca-Cola Classic, because it's the original one. Thank you, Group 1. Andre, appreciate that. Amna, Chelsea, Christian, Ricardo, Group 2. Tell us about the Apple Newton and what went wrong there.
All right, so for our group, the Apple Newton debuted in May 29th, 1992, when John Scully was in charge of Apple during Steve Jobs' absence. And over a 7-year period, they released 7 models of this thing. But honestly, it was just way before its time. The technology just was not there to support it. The processors they couldn't give it enough power. The screens were no good. It couldn't recognize handwriting for anything. And as you mentioned earlier, it was even made it to be the butt of a Simpsons joke. Wireless connectivity was nowhere near where it was. That in fact, it was more tedious to use it than to just do the same functions on a physical computer. Portability, just throw it out the window. Upon Steve Jobs' return to Apple, he made it one of his first things to get rid of that. And then 17 years later, we get the introduction of the iPad, and with carrying some of the original technology from the Newton, we get this product now that everybody loves, that's easy to use, that can perform, yes, the same functions as a computer, but the portability and everything is just up to date and everyone loves it now.
Awesome. Thank you, Chelsea. And also for Chelsea or anybody else in the group, did anyone see how much the Apple Newton cost when it was first released?
You know what? I missed that, but now
$699.
Yeah. So
forget about it.
So $699. But what year? But what year was that? Also, that was 19.
It was supposed to be for April 1992, but they postponed it until August 1993. I have something to add to what Chelsea said. I found an article that would talk about like they work about 18 hours per day. Some engineers were so young that some went home and cried, some quit, one had a breakdown and ended up in jail, and one took a pistol and killed himself.
Wow. So a lot of loss to create a product that ended up failing anyways. So 699, for something that came out 20 years ago almost, that's like $1,000+ today. And according
And
to
if you want
Chelsea,
one now, it's almost $1,500 on eBay.
I don't know why you would want one, just unless you were like an Apple collector or something. But yeah, it was interesting, Chelsea. I'm glad you brought it up. That's what set the precedent for the iPad, which is a product that a lot of people enjoy and obviously costs a lot less than an Apple Newton did. All right, Microsoft Bob. This is a fun one. Group 3, Amadul, Ashley, Karina, Hannah. Who is your spokesperson?
It's me, Hannah. Hey, everyone. So Microsoft Bob was a supplemental kind of application to the Windows that was coming up in 1996. It was launched in 1995 as a new user interface geared towards the everyday computer user, which was pretty humorous because in 1995, the only people that were everyday computer users were tech savvy people who had no choice. So not too many people had computers. So making an app to make it easier didn't really make much logical sense. Another problem with it is that after looking at it and seeing the cartoons, it can't be geared towards adults because that's just condescending towards adults and kind of calling them dummies. It was a cartoon interface that had a dog as its leader, and it had speech bubbles. So those are all kind of childish things. It was used as, so Microsoft Bob was a house. You walked into the house as the sign-in, and other rooms were, instead of having a regular desktop as applications, you had rooms that you can go into to use these apps. Problem with that is you can only go into one room at a time. There's no multitasking. So how quick can you really get your job done? Another problem we found with Microsoft Bob was that it was pretty expensive as an add-on to the already Windows 95. It couldn't really compete or keep up with the Apple Macintosh at the time and its marketing during that. And another thing was that each room was customizable. So you can create the kitchen as an app, which was cool, but are you gonna remember what app the kitchen is? Are you gonna remember that that's Microsoft Word and these other things? So yeah, it was kind of an epic failure. It didn't last, ended in 1996.
Yeah, I'm sure most of you don't remember the Microsoft Bob, but yeah, it was like exactly what Hannah described. It was supposed to be like this add-on to computers, which my first computer my parents bought in 2000. What year was that? Probably like 98. It's like 5 years after the Bob. That first computer was $3,000, right? And like now my iPhone has better technology than that did. So just kind of crazy how much things used to cost. Oof is right, Ashley Gavin. Yeah, it's like you could literally. My parents spent $3,000 on their first computer. My first car was $1,000. So that just shows you where my parents' priorities were. All right. Anyways, Group 4, McDonald's Arch Deluxe. Ashley Gavin, Luis, Mahmoud, Nicholas. Who is your spokesperson?
It's me. Hey everyone. The Arch Deluxe was supposed to appeal to an adult audience, but the problem is that McDonald's is like a very family-friendly company. So in the commercials, they had children eating the burger, and they were disgusted by it, saying it was supposed to be sophisticated for grown-ups, and they spent at least $150 million in the advertising campaign, like showing commercials where Ronald McDonald was playing with golf clubs and like in the pool and stuff like that. And it failed because it was like McDonald's is family friendly for kids, quick and cheap. And this burger was like more expensive and had a higher calorie count. But looking at the ingredients, to me, it just sounds like a Quarter Pounder Deluxe with bacon. So I guess if they didn't have those commercials, they would have been successful. But it debuted in 1996 and was discontinued in 2000.
Thank you, Luis. Yeah, this is a funny one. Like they try to say like, hey, we gotta stop just catering to children and families. Let's become like a cool, sophisticated place to hang out. So it showed Ronald McDonald playing golf and like looking all cool. And then they had this thing called the Arch Deluxe. And it was also very expensive too. That was another thing that I learned in my study. But yeah, Luis, you're right. If they would have not done the ads, it probably would have been successful. But because they did these cheesy ads, it got, to not be so good. Thank you, group. All right, we're on to group 5. Moses Muhammad Usman, the Amazon Fire Phone. Who is your spokesperson?
I would be our spokesperson. Um, the Amazon Fire Phone was a big flop because Amazon tried to do something that was like out of their, like that was not them. Amazon's always been known for like where you go to get like goods for the cheap for the yeah, where you shop on the discount prices, you go looking for deals. What they try to do is compete with Apple, and Apple had already prior success. They're known for being a premium good. Like their customers will willing to spend big money on what they offer, and the phone they had was basic. I mean, they try to have 5 cameras in the front for dynamics, something which sounds cool, but it's actually like it's more of a task than anything. And only one person was really working on it. It was just Jeff Bezos. They let him do everything. And the phone was pretty expensive, $650 for an Amazon phone, and they try to just do it all by themselves. They didn't try to incorporate Google, Microsoft, and nothing. And they failed by themselves miserably.
Absolutely, Usman. And the thing that I love about this story is, I'm glad he brought it up, is that Jeff Bezos like designed this. This was like his brainchild, and it failed miserably. Usman hit the nail on the head. So I now look at Jeff Bezos, right? He's obviously has a lot of success in his life. So it just goes to show that if you fail at something doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means the idea failed, but you can still persevere. All right, group 6. I feel bad for this group because everyone's talking about cheeseburgers and phones, and these guys are talking about people's lives being lost. So sorry, guys. Group 6, this is Jesus Samaje Zena. Who's your spokesperson for the Challenger Space Shuttle?
Yeah, good morning, Eric. I'll be the spokesperson for the Challenger Space Shuttle. So a quick description would be on January 28, 1986, Space Shuttle Challenger exploded after 73 seconds after launching. The main cause of this was basically a leak in one of the 2 solid rocket boosters that set the main liquid fuel tank. This occurred during the cold weather, so that's another downfall. Another cause was also the lack of communication with upper management. This basically resulted in 5 astronauts passing away, along with 2 Palo specialists. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Jesus. So that's an example, like the General Slocum disaster that I shared about, when people's oversight and not planning properly resulted in lost lives. So, like, it's one thing for McDonald's to spend, what was it, Luis, $150 million on a marketing campaign, and then so how much they spent?
Yeah, I saw like it was either 300 or 150.
Okay, either way, it's a lot of money. So it's one thing to lose money, then obviously another thing to people lose their lives. So all right, group 7. This is Manny Neftali Pablo, the Berlin Brandenburg Airport. What went wrong there? Who's your spokesperson?
Hello, class. So breaking news. So as of Halloween, since Halloween, we have been informed that the Berlin airport has been open ever since 2012, which was you were informed that the airport had many errors, such as my colleague Paulo said that the project sponsor was made by the mayor of Germany, who is Passport Reed, something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's his last name. That's on him. Anyway, so the report had indicated that there were at least over 66,000 defects were found out of 34,000 that were are described as significant, and 5,845 as critical. Now, before the opening day, they were also informed that at least 100,000 defect, including fire safety issues, automatic doors that did not open, sagging roofs. Now, also around 170,000 kilometers, also not 106 miles for us Americans, of cable installed in and around the airports were found as dangerously wired. Some lights could not turn on, others could not turn off. Thank you. Stay tuned.
All right, hold on, Manny. Before you hang up, you said there was 100,000 mistakes they found in the airport. Is that what I heard?
Yes, sir.
Wow. So can you imagine if you're the project manager and there's 100,000 mistakes on your project? Yeah, Pablo.
Also, since they just opened this year, so it's taking them over 10 years to open this airport when it was only supposed to take them 5. They're already talking about expansions that mean extra costs they're never going to have a good return for that airport because they already want to make expansions that cost almost 2.3 billion euros by 2030.
Yeah, it's like the laughing stock of Europe, that airport. It's almost as bad as LaGuardia. LaGuardia's been under construction since like our parents were kids. They've been under construction forever. All right, last group, and then we're gonna wrap up class. Group 8, Jalissa, Ashley, Majida, the Garden Bridge in London. Who's your spokesperson?
Hey guys, it's Rahul here.
Rahul, yeah.
Thank you, Eric. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay, so this is basically what the Golden Bridge was supposed to look like. It was just a project that was supposed to be, it's referred to as a floating paradise. It was supposed to be a memorial to Princess Diana. So a lot of funding went into this project, and it's a beautiful project. And in 2012, the mayor of London at the time, Boris Johnson, had approved it, and it gathered funding, and the breakdown of the costs are as follows. So it gathered 53.5 million pounds of funding, and it's broken down as shown. And in 2016, the next mayor, because there was no progress on the project, there was a lot of legal problems, and plus residents were against the idea, and that never gave the project too much leeway and too much support. But despite that, the head of the project at the time, David Cameron, kept the funds going. He didn't communicate with all departments. He kept the construction contracts. He kept the designer funds. He kept the legal costs. He basically paid everything he had to start the project, but there was no execution because he never received permission. And for that reason, in 2016, the mayor, Sadiq Khan, he then asked for a status update on the project to see where the funds went and what happened. And then after breaking down the funds, they saw how much money was lost, and eventually the project was overthrown. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Excellent job. I love the visuals as well. So really fascinating story, huh? They tried to build this bridge that would look like a garden, and yeah, it never got built. And the people took the money and ran. So just goes to show that projects don't always go the way they think they should. And the reason I wanted to spend some time on this exercise is because you have a catastrophic quality assurance paper due tomorrow. And I already know what you're thinking. Can I write my paper on the project that my team discussed, since I've already know about that one? And the answer is sure. That's totally fine. You can do that. And so if you want to do that, since you already have it done, put it on paper, send it via Schoology, and we'll be good to go. Samaja, you were an excellent assistant instructor. Thank you so much. Do you mind, before we wrap up class, just reading the deliverables?
Discussion board response. At least 2 responses is due by Thursday at 11:59. You forgot about San Fran. The scenario essay is due today. Please do it. The quality assurance is due tomorrow at 11:59. No class on Thursday. Optional study group at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. to 10 a.m., which will be recorded. Midterms will be posted on Thursday and is due by Sunday at 11:59. Please don't cheat, because he will know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Samaje. Really appreciate that. And yes, please do not cheat. You do not want to have that awkward conversation with me and your program manager telling you you have to leave the program. I don't want to do that because that's just not the type of person I am. And I know you're not that type of person either. So please be ethical, be honest, be real. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, we're going to study together. Please make it if you can. Guys, have a great rest of the day. Take care.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Eric, I have a
Thank
quick
you, Eric.
question
Of
about
course.
tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is the schedule gonna go out? Because I know that by 11:30 there's nothing. How will that really pan out?
In terms of my class or your other classes?
I believe you're the only class we have for tomorrow, because tomorrow we usually start at 10:30.
Yeah, tomorrow I don't have a class. I have an optional study group from 9 to 10, and that's it.
Also, that's literally all we have.
That's all you have from me. Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a question before I close up this room?
Yeah, Eric, I have a question. For example, for the catastrophic essay that we have to do, it says that we have to put 3 sources.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to like investigate in 3 websites and cite the sources that we have.
Correct. Yep, you got it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And those 3 sources, is it APA or MLA?
Whichever one you're more comfortable with. I'm not going to be a stickler about that as long as you just source where you got your information.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome. See ya. Ricardo, Neftali, you guys have a question?
Yes. Sorry. So you just basically want us to go over what went wrong in the project, what are some key things that went wrong, what happened with it after, it got shut down and things like that?
Exactly. So just like what we did today, with our breakout, same sort of deal. Just
Okay, so we can
yeah,
start
just
by introducing what the project is and then
Yep.
going over. Okay.
a short essay, very, very quick. That's totally fine.
And then a question for today's deliverable. That is you forgot San Fran. So pretty much for this, you just want us to write an essay on what are the steps that we're gonna take to, solve this issue, resolve the issue.
Exactly. So I want you to imagine like you're going to go to your project sponsor and share what went wrong. How would you handle that as the project manager?
Okay, got it.
All right.
Thank you, Eric. Have a good
You're
day.
welcome. Have a good day. See you. Bye.
Bye.